My first duty is to introduce the president-elect of the Illinois State Bar Association, who practices with Momkus and McCluskey in Lisle, Illinois, and he's also the person who appointed you to these positions today. I am pleased to introduce, for some welcoming remarks, our president-elect, Mr. James McCluskey.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Bob. By the way, that's the real president of the Illinois State Bar Association. Yeah, when I started that firm in 1991, Momkus McCluskey, it was Momkus, Ozog, and McCluskey. And a couple of people in DuPage County said, "Are you in business with a Klingon and a Kardashian?" So my name kind of balanced it out. Let me tell you something. I'm very happy that you're here today. We usually have section councils and committees meet at the annual meeting. But we thought this would be better because it would be more concentrated and you'd get more out of it if we met before, so we're not rushing around and having a breakfast. And so we thought this would be a more appropriate thing to do, so to get you started, jump-started, as the year starts on June 15th. I think this is probably the lifeblood of the organization is the section councils and the committees. I have been on several committees, several section councils, but I was never chair. So I think this is a real honored thing for you to be on as the chair and the committees. One of the things I noticed when I was on the committees and the chairs, and the frustrating things for all these substantive law committees, is that you're not getting feedback sometimes from the board or from the assembly or from the executives. Because when you propose some initiatives, years past it seemed to die. I want to let you know that I'm going to encourage the board. That's what I can do. I can encourage the board to listen to your comments, your initiatives, and we're going to communicate with you and we're going to get back to you. Because a lot of things have come out of a lot of the different substantive section councils. We have the collaborative law from the Family Law Section Council. And the way that works, really the Illinois State Bar Association starts legislation, and you'll hear from Jim Covington today, and he'll speak about legislation. But when it starts, it then goes to the board. The board functions with respect to the day-to-day operations of the association. And then when the board takes suggestions such as the collaborative law issue from the Family Law Section Council, it goes to the Assembly. First time it didn't pass muster, but the Section Council, Family Law Section Council, for example, really pushed it forward. And now it's in front of the Illinois Supreme Court Committee. They'll have to take it up on a Rules Committee. But after it passes the Assembly, which is the primary governing body of the Illinois State Bar Association, it usually follows a path to the Supreme Court Committee of Professional Responsibility, which I'm a member of. So it goes through that committee, and they maybe take a year to look at the different rules. On the collaborative law, that passed pretty quickly because we had two members from the Section Council of Family Law present it, did a fine job, and we accepted it on the first pass. Now it's in front of the Illinois Supreme Court Rules Committee. 8.4 is another one that you probably were well aware of, and that was promoted by the ABA. That went to the Assembly, and the way that was written, there was a lot of opposition. The Illinois State Bar Association did not approve of the ABA 8.4 rule. It went to the Supreme Court Committee of Professional Responsibility, and they took about 6 to 7 months on it. I was on the subcommittee, try to modify the rule to see if it would be acceptable, but it was recently passed on by the and rejected by the Illinois Supreme Court. So it didn't get to the Illinois Supreme Court Rules Committee. We're now talking about a lead generation rule with respect to the sort of, I wouldn't say onslaught, but the encroachment in the practice of law with respect to fee sharing between AVO and LegalZoom. And it has taken quite a time to draft a proposal that we're going to be presenting to the Illinois Supreme Court. It's still in the Professional Responsibility Committee. But the point I'm making here is it all comes out of the section councils and the committees. So the work that you folks do is very well appreciated. I'm very happy that you're here today, and I'm very appreciative of all the hard work that you do, okay? And believe me, the board does also. And anything we can do to make your job easier, or we can facilitate the communication process, don't hesitate to contact Bob Craighead and ask him all the questions. But yeah, I just want to let you know I really appreciate you're here today, and I appreciate all the things you've done for the Illinois State Bar Association. Thank you.
Okay, you can hear me? First of all, as I said before, this is designed to help you. So throughout the remainder of the morning, if you have questions, don't hesitate to interrupt any of the speakers to ask a question. This is really your time. We're pretty familiar with this stuff, and if you'd like, I can stand up here and talk for the next 2 hours, but I'm sure you probably don't want that. So this is interactive. This is your chance to ask questions, any questions within bounds. So we're here to help. First of all, let me start with the appointment process. Does anyone have any questions about the mysterious appointment process the President-elect makes every year? Question. We need to get you a microphone. This is on tape, folks, and so they told me they were going to make me look skinnier. Go right ahead. And identify your committee or section, if you would,
Okay.
please.
Alan Kaplan from the Business Advice. I just wonder how it's done. Do you do it, sir? Do you
No way.
work with the President-elect, and how does he or she
Here's how
make
the
the
process
decision?
works. The process really begins in January, and that's when we ask chairs and vice chairs and staff liaisons, as well as board liaisons when they choose to participate, to evaluate confidentially the personnel that currently serve on every committee and section. Asterisk. That information is confidential. There are only 3 people who normally see that information. They are the President-elect, me, and Kimmy Jalali, who works with the appointments process. And at the same time, we are soliciting from current members as well as other members of the association who would like to be appointed their nomination, self-nominations as we call them, giving us their top 3 choices in priority order. And we then amalgamate all of the, what we call, evaluations. So when that time comes in January and we ask you to do that, please do it thoroughly, promptly, and formally. And we also bring together all the information regarding those persons who have asked to either be reappointed to the committee or section council or members who don't currently serve. We put all this information together. It's about 3 file folders about this thick because it has to be a manual process. And staff sits down with the President-elect normally at the beginning of March. Sometimes the appointment process takes 20 hours. The record is 79.4 in face-to-face meetings. I'm not going to mention his or her name. But it is the President-elect with staff individually reviews every committee and section council, every member. What are the criteria that are given weight in terms of being reappointed? Attendance and participation, whether that's in CLE or newsletters or other special programs or projects of the given committee or section council. the president-elect in almost every instance, and again, the president-elect is the final arbiter, so blame Jim, not me. And the final arbiter for decisions as to who is appointed are made by the president-elect. He or she has valued highly the input from chairs and vice chairs. There's no way that a president-elect can know everybody. And so your input is absolutely critical to that process. One of the other questions that oftentimes comes up is we'll have chairs and vice chairs are given the opportunity to recommend people for consideration for appointment to that particular section council or committee. And not all of those recommendations are accepted uniformly. The criteria that go into when you nominate someone on your own is, number one, are they a member? You'd be surprised, and this kind of hurts my feelings, you'd be surprised how many people are nominated by officers of committees and sections who currently aren't members. So have your colleagues and friends join. Secondly, it's whether or not that person has independently expressed through the self-nomination process his or her own interest in being appointed to that group. I will tell you, and this is the truth, that Jim McCluskey paid real attention to recommendations made by officers and tried whenever possible to oblige those requests to appoint those people to those section councils and committees for uniformity and for some consistency. Any other questions about appointments? Hold on, let's get your microphone. Your Honor. Mr. Pat Leston, former chair of the Young Lawyers Division.
Now chair of the Senior Law Firms Division. And is it a custom or tradition or a hard and fast rule of your length of service on a committee? I seem to remember 3 years.
ISBA policy states that a committee and section council member may serve for 6 consecutive years on a section council or committee unless he or she is appointed as an officer. And that's observed most of the time. I would be prevaricating with you if I didn't say there are times with certain substantive law sections that there are some just real stars that for the continuity and for the productivity of groups are continued. I will tell you this year that I got some angry phone calls from members who had been on groups for a while, and in an effort to open up spots for new members of the organization on those committees and section councils, their term was not extended. So generally, yes, there are exceptions. Other questions about appointments? Microphone?
Is there a maximum number of people that are allowed to be on a section council?
Assembly policy states that based upon the paid enrollment of section councils, there is a formula that is used. In theory, the largest section council should be no greater than 30 members. However, for those of you that are not familiar with voluntary bar associations in today's age, we have to struggle every day, thank you very much for your membership, struggle every day to remain relevant, to remain topical, to remain timely for our members. And when you have members knocking at the door and want to participate, it doesn't help an organization where you rely on your members to vote with credit cards or checks every year and stay a member to slam the door too much. So, as a working number, you will probably not see many groups with the exception of one, and we all know what that is, larger than 40. And usually it's around 30. Most of the section councils, if you average them out, are between 20 and 30. So there is some room, and that's something that's evolved over the years. And I will confess, I've been a bad administrator because I've acquiesced to that understanding that participation is golden in an organization like ours. Other questions? I think I've summarized the appointment process for you, but let me reiterate some important points. Number one, fill out the evaluation. Be honest and forthright. That's really critical that you do that. It helps the president-elect make appointments. Number two, that information is absolutely confidential. It is not spread upon on the record. And when a member who has not received the appointment they want or has not been reappointed to a group they served on, I don't divulge that information in terms of, well, you weren't appointed because the chair said that you didn't make any kind of contribution. We don't do that. That's not how we operate. So it is a confidential process, but it relies on you as the primary drivers of input to the president-elect. Also understand that the appointment process usually culminates no later than April 1 to April 15th in terms of notice to folks. There are over 1,500, Kimmy, 1,500 positions that are individually reviewed by the President-elect. It takes time, and when it's done properly and thoroughly, it takes a lot of time to do it right. And then there's the implementation process. We do, as a matter of course, and you should know this, we ask the President-elect to permit us to confidentially circulate the draft rosters to staff liaisons so they can, one, have a heads up, and number two, if there were any real problems that were being created in those appointments, those can be flagged and acknowledged, and those questions come back to the President-elect. So again, fill out the evaluation. Appointments normally, a notice usually comes out between April and April 15th. And the question if your members say, well, I want to be reappointed, should I go ahead and self-nominate? They don't have to, but they're encouraged to do so. That simply confirms to the President-elect that they are interested in continuing their service on that particular group. Okay. Appointments. Mr. McCluskey, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out,
Microphone.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, it was a 3-day process, and without the assistance of Bob Craighead and Kimmy and Melissa Burkholder, I wouldn't even have been able to get through the 3-day. It would have taken me probably 3 months to do it. But they were very well organized. I had a list on every section council, not only section councils, but committees. And I think total, Bob, how many section councils and committees do we have? 85. So I had to look through every one of them. I had to seek input from every one of them. I read all of the chairs and the vice chairs' comments. I read the staff liaisons' comments. And then I had a series of questions to the 2 staff members plus Executive Director Craighead. And then I had to make my decision. I think I spread it out as most as I could. I recognize that people are dedicated to this organization, and I wanted to keep them on, but I also recognize the fact that we have people who want to be part of the organization and get them involved. So I tried to put everybody who asked, and I think Bob said it was like 1,500 people who requested. I didn't get them all, but I got pretty close, and I tried to put everybody on at least one committee or section council. So thanks.
Thank you. One more question over here, Blake.
Thanks. You said that you want people to self-nominate to find themselves. We filled out the questionnaires on who we wanted and who we wanted to bring back. Would it have been more powerful to be actually going in and nominating somebody directly through the system? Is that something that should be happening?
There's equal power in each system. One of the steps that president-elects often take is if you nominate someone individually, they will look to see whether or not they self-nominated too. That isn't the controlling factor, but it's something that is at least considered along the process. So the more indications of someone who you would like to serve from themselves and from the leadership that they are interested in participating is helpful to their successful appointment to that particular group.
I guess what I'm asking, though, is that we filled out a form.
Right.
You know, here are the people on our committee, here are the people we should retain, here are the people that should go because they haven't been participating.
Right.
These are the people we recommended for leadership. I did that. What we did not do was to go in through the computer and nominate somebody else. And that's what I'm asking, if we should be doing that as well. To indicate...
With respect to officers, what we would like you to do is nominate those persons whom you might know personally or know of professionally that should be considered. That's the best thing that you can do.
With respect to officers, what about with respect to members?
Same thing. Same thing.
And when you say nominate them, go in through the computer system to nominate them.
No.
Not just on the sheet.
No. In the evaluation form, there's a little part that says, who else would you like to be considered for? That's where you want that information to go.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You don't have to go back into our system and nominate somebody else, if that's what you were saying.
Right, but in order for somebody to go on, they also have to self-nominate, and we should be telling people, it's not good enough for me to put you on there, you actually have to go in and self-nominate.
I would say it would be even more helpful for you to go in and self-nominate.
Okay.
I'm agreeing with you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Let's move forward just a little bit and talk about what's called Section 3.8. How many of you are aware that sections and committees can make public statements on their own? Wow. Section 3.8 of the bylaws provides in instances that meet certain criteria that section councils and committees can make public statements on their own. This arises oftentimes in instances where we're talking about administrative proceedings or other public issues that arise. And this isn't an invitation to comment on major political issues. The criteria, and your staff liaison can help you with this, and we are judicious in making these statements, but there are times when it's appropriate. The criteria are, one, that the issue is germane to the purview of the individual committee or section council, that the matter has been formally considered by the council and the recommended position was adopted by a majority vote, that the position is not inconsistent with any established position of the ISBA Assembly, Supreme Governing Body, or the ISBA Board of Governors, and 4, that the form of the public statement, 1, must be approved by the President of the Association and must specifically state that the opinion or position does not represent the views of the Illinois State Bar Association, but simply the section council or committee involved. That wasn't bad, was it, to recite all that? It sometimes comes in handy. It is a tool available to you. Timeliness is one of the criteria that impacts this, so be aware of that as you move forward during the year, because especially section councils, you have the responsibility to represent your constituents and their views. And in this fast-paced, ever-changing world, timeliness so that our members are heard is important. Any other questions about 3.8?
Where is the public statement published?
The public statement can be sent to an administrative body. We are careful about the legislative process because we try to work within those procedures, and Jim will talk about that. Normally it's an administrative agency, a government entity. Sometimes it's just a public statement made by the section council. We staff can assist in disseminating it to the appropriate recipients of that commentary. Mr. Thies.
How about if we're called by the press or on a topic?
Duck. No. That was...
Bring anybody into it?
The question was, what happens if we are called independently by the press? This is one of those close calls. If you feel that you can adequately and thoroughly answer that question and the response is clear and there's no controversy and it's consistent with ISPA position, I would encourage you to go ahead and answer the question. However, if it gets into some nuance, please contact Tim Slating, who is our Assistant Executive Director for Communications, and we will assist you in putting together a response. Again, there are times that especially substantive law section council chairs are independently contacted because that information, folks, is on the web. I can access, as a member of the public, the membership of section councils and committees, so they know who the leaders are. Default is staff is there to assist. If there's any hesitancy, contact us, and we'll help coordinate a response. And also, in many instances, help you with the background and history in terms of whether or not we've taken a position on that issue, what that position is, how it's best couched in terms of a response. Any other questions on public statements? As a matter of formality, the only official spokesperson for the Illinois State Bar Association is the president. So we monitor that fairly carefully so there's a uniform voice. But again, our substantive law sections, which we believe strongly represent the interests of our members, need to be heard at appropriate times. Other questions? I'm sorry, I'm a moving target. I can't stand behind a podium and talk for this long, so you just have to Get used to it, I guess. That's it? Okay. Let me move to, in 1906, Bob Craighead gave it. In 1998, I spoke before the American Bar Association General Practice Solo and Small Firm Conference Leadership Institute and talked about how to effectively work with professional staff. So you're going to get a reprise and get snippets of what we're going to do. And again, along the way, if there are any questions or I'm not clear, please let me know. So, who are you? Why do lawyers become active in bar associations? Any thoughts? I'll make it simple. Keeping informed, developing professional contacts, continuing legal education, building a reputation in a career, providing support to your chosen profession, helping other lawyers, or service to the bar. Your commitment, and we value your commitment, helps us accomplish what we do for our members. And believe me, our members look to ISBA for one thing, first and foremost, and that is a return on their dues dollar investment. Committees and sections help us provide a lot of product, and your voluntary time and talent and treasure makes a huge difference in how well we serve our members, so we thank you. Insight for you. Who are we, the ISBA professional staff? First of all, and I'm an example, we come in all shapes and sizes and from different backgrounds and walks of life, but we all like working with people. I can speak for the ISBA staff and tell you that we don't have special agendas other than making certain this organization moves forward well in serving the ISBA membership and working collaboratively with our active members to make certain that you have productive and successful years as leaders and participants. What are the real roles of your staff liaisons and professional staff? Our job, first and foremost, is to facilitate the work that you do. It's to facilitate the work that you do. It's our job to help you as leaders make well-informed decisions. We don't make decisions for you, but it is our job, absolutely, plain and simple, that the decisions you make are based upon sound data and a sound understanding of the issues at hand. We're there to help you do well. We understand that you make the decisions regarding policy and direction, and it's our job to help us get to that point. As an aside, about 10 years ago, we sat down and did an analysis of the time that our members give to the organization and tried to translate that into full-time staff members, and this was 10 years ago. And the hours that we receive from our members, in addition to having their busy practices or other professional pursuits, was 30 full-time staff members. 30 full-time staff members. The ISBA staff is roughly, between the two offices, 50. So what you do adds almost twice the amount of resource and energy to that which ISBA does. So thank you. Above all, you'll find that your staff liaison really has as the overarching principle the best interests of the organization at heart. That's our role. ISBA, as I say, the Bar Association with a capital B is our preeminent responsibility and job. And that's how we approach all of our activity with you. It is my responsibility to make certain that all of us adhere to those important standards. I will say to you at any time, I'm accessible, I'm available. If you have a question or concern, that should reach me, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm available by email, by text, by phone. But again, the best interests of the ISBA are the ultimate standard. Let me make some suggestions about what we should expect of one another. What we should expect of one another as staff works hand in hand with the membership and leaders. One, we need to understand our respective roles. We need to understand our respective roles. Volunteer leaders don't need to be involved in the internal administration of the organization unless there's a manifest issue there that requires that attention. That's what staff's there for. Number two, we need to reach a common understanding about the goals of the organization and how we can ultimately serve the profession and serve our members. Number three, staff and leaders need to be accessible. In order, and you'll hear me say this in a minute, in order to facilitate really good communication, you as leaders need to be accessible. Whether that's, this is the best time of the day to contact me with your staff liaison, whether this is the best way to contact me, whether these particular days of the week are going to be busy for me, have an understanding of when you are accessible, because there are times we need responses from you post-haste. So accessibility is important. Also, we need to be forthright with one another, have mutual respect, and also be mutually supportive. What you're hearing me say is really the relationship between staff and the leadership of the organization is a partnership. We know that you have busy professional lives. Our professional life is to make certain that your professional life is better. So it's a true partnership to work together to reach a common goal. How am I doing for time? Briefly, some tips to help us all work better together. It's a people business. Bottom line, what we do in the Illinois State Bar Association is about people. Goodwill goes a long way in the ISBA, and it's really important to the construct. Abraham Lincoln Marovitz, a well-respected federal judge, used to say, you can disagree without being disagreeable. And that's a quote you often hear. That really should be kind of the motto for ISBA. There are a lot of difficult issues that we deal with collectively with different perspectives, and I've been very proud of how this organization has handled itself in addressing some weighty, important, hard issues. Number two, Bob's 4 C's, not Craighead. Communicate, 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 and collaborate. When you're working with staff, we can't help you as well when we don't know what you're thinking. Share with us. Again, staff does not have a special agenda other than to facilitate work. And so we can bring our expertise, our years of experience, to better help you when we understand the issues at hand and what your perspective on those issues are. So don't miss the opportunity to fully communicate. Let me reiterate. This is a partnership between staff and volunteer leaders. It is not us versus them. Staff does not have interests that go beyond helping the ISBA do the best for members. And you've heard me say that repeatedly already. If you take nothing else away today, understand it's a partnership and we're working towards a common goal. Take time, and this is one of those times for you as leaders to learn a little bit more about the organization and how it operates. Again, staff is there to help you navigate some of the policies and procedures and things, but have a general familiarity. It will help you in your approaches to issues that come before your groups. If you want a quick overview, go to the ISBA website, which will be redesigned this summer, right, Tim? There'll be a whole new redesign, and you're going to see big buttons, and you're going to be able to find stuff a lot quicker and more easily. But at this point, if you go to the website, you go to About, and you go under Leadership, and you go under leadership and you see a little PDF called Association Policies and Procedures, it gives you a really good overview of structure and policies and procedures that impact committees and sections as they do their work. My last comment is, and this is procedural, staff and leaders use the front door. Come in through the front door with staff, and staff is required to do the same thing with you, so that we're communicating well, we're upfront with one another, we know where we're coming from, so we can do the best job for the members. But again, the biggest thought I want to leave with you, pure and simple, is that it is a partnership that will help ISBA continue to be relevant to its members, and here's one area where the staff does have an interest, and that is so that the organization continues on for the next century. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have or any clarifications. If not, did I finish ahead of time? How about that? At this point, I will turn off my mic and introduce our Director of Section Program, Melissa Burkholder.
Today, our biggest goal with the training is to make sure you leave with all of your questions answered, and when you leave, you have the confidence that you need to chair your section or your committee this year. So my first topic today is engaging section members. And to discuss this, I think it's prudent to review the differences between sections and committees. And I know a lot of you represent a committee, but I think this, and I know you're on sections as well, so I think this will play into your work. Your committee work. So sections, they are the substantive areas of the law, anywhere from animal law to civil practice, all the way down to workers' compensation. And we also include the Young Lawyers Division and the Senior Lawyers as a section. And sections are made up of members. Section councils govern those sections. So the section council is the governing body of the section. The ISBA has 42 sections. And because I'm trying to upstage Bob in my presentation today, I'm going to make mine a little interactive. So I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of questions, and we have a little prize if you answer them correctly. I do. Okay, can anyone name the two newest sections of the ISBA? Oh, yeah, Judge. That is one of them, correct. Give the judge a prize. Oh, I'm sorry. One of them is, and it was just started this year, it's Privacy and Information Securities Law. And the next one's very tough. Any ideas? Just throw it out there. It is not. It's mental health. And when I say new, it's about 10 years old, so that's pretty relative. What about the largest sections? Any idea? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Outside of Senior Lawyers and the Young Lawyers Division. No. Civil practice. And the other one? Trust and Estates. The chair of Trust and Estates got that correct. And how about the two sections that don't have a governing council, but have a committee as their governing council, or their governing body, I should say? This is tricky. It's Legal Tech and Law Office Management Economics. So technically they have a section, they have a greater membership, but their governing body is a committee. So to review, standing committees are appointed by the board or the assembly and are permanent and have an ongoing purpose, and that's typically related to the work of the ISBA, like women in the law, SOGI, disability law, delivery of legal services, committees like that. And there are other types of committees, such as a special committee, which is appointed no more than 2 years. A joint committee is when we work with an outside organization like the CCBA or the CBA. And an ad hoc committee is a committee made up of specifically board members. So we have 26 standing committees currently. 5 special committee, and 1 task force. Can anyone name that 1 task force of the ISBA? Nobody? It's the unauthorized practice of law, and it is called a task force. It's in the bylaws, actually. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, section councils govern the larger section membership, but not all sections struggle with membership. There's some sections like family law, they don't have to do anything but just exist to get their members engaged. But traditionally, section councils interact with their membership through 2 benefits, and that's the newsletter and CLE programs. And those are the only 2 mandated products that we ask each of the sections to produce. Some section councils host networking receptions around their business meeting or even during or after a live CLE program. And other councils, like Trust and Estates, for example, regularly invite their section members to attend a council meeting, and they're more than welcome to do so. The only caveat is that you don't get reimbursed for it and you're not a voting member, but you're more than welcome to participate in the work of the council and in the discussion. But one of the biggest and newest ways to engage section members is through ISBA communities, and this is up on the screen here is an example of the state and local taxation community. Each section has its own community, and all of the members of that section council are inside that community. So it's there, and these members are all combined and ready for you to reach out to. Each community has their own discussion group, formerly known as a listserv. They have a library to store agendas, minutes, anything you can think of. There's an events page to post upcoming business meetings, maybe a CLE event, maybe a networking event, any ISBA related event that you can think of. And then also a directory, a member directory where you can look up and find any member of that section. Without surprise to you, I'm sure family law and trust and estates are the largest user of the discussion groups. So because ISBA Central is the newest benefit for section members, we would like each council to start regularly and proactively using ISBA Central. Like I said, many groups don't need any help. I mean, family law and trust and estates are using it daily, if not hourly. But the best way to start engaging with our members this way is just posing a question. A topical question about anywhere from, what's going on in state and local tax, or have you heard about this Cook County recorder issue that's going on? That's the best way to just start asking questions. And this is the fastest way to engage your members in real time and across the state. Think about assigning a subcommittee chair of the community. So we're not asking the chairs to necessarily have to, every month I got to post something. I've got to remind these groups. Think about asking someone on your council or committee to pose a question every once in a while and to get those members engaged. And it can even be, posting recent case law updates. For elder law, a couple of months ago, I posted case law updates that Judge Timer does every month. And it got people talking and got them engaged on what was going on. So it was a nice way to engage them. Does anyone have any questions about ISBA Central? It's new. Lori? Yeah.
So the incoming members, say if my committee, Women Belong, when are they included on that list?
Great question. So if you didn't hear, Lori's question is, when will the new members be added to the new communities? And that will happen automatically on July 1st. Technically, our bar year starts July 1st, and so everything is mandated to roll over on July 1st. So unfortunately, it won't be set to go by the annual meeting. However, by July 1st, it'll be all set and ready to go. I mean, knock on wood. And should you want a staff liaison or myself to come to one of your meetings, and we've done this for, I think, SALT and real estate as well, and walk through what ISBA Central is to the council, we're happy to do so. Every staff liaison should be up to date and how to use it and best practices. My next topic is how to facilitate a meeting. And I know a few members in the room have chaired councils and committees before, so this will come as a review to you. But to be able to to be able to facilitate a meeting, you should understand who's in the room and the role that they play. So the committee members are there to advise and make decisions. And the staff is there, whether it's your staff liaison, a member of the CLE department, the general counsel even, we're there to give advice and to implement. So that is everyone's role. Now everyone in the room kind of has a sub-role too. So the chair is a facilitator. They run and control the meeting. And you also have to act as a mediator, right? There's a lot of times where discussion gets contentious at best, and you have to step in and be able to facilitate and create buy-in in whatever that issue is. Members are there to participate in the discussion, help make decisions, and it's really important that each member comes to the meeting prepared to discuss what's on the agenda. And that's why we, as staff liaisons, strive to get the agenda out within a week. Rarely does that happen, but that's best practice, is get that out so members have enough time to review the agenda and discuss what's on there. The secretary is there to record the action of the committee or council, not every word that was said. I know a lot of times there are secretaries that will make sure every word is said correctly. That's not necessarily needed. We just need to make sure we record the action of the group. And staff is there to, again, advise the chair and to advise the group. And once the meeting concludes, staff is also there to help implement that action that happened at that meeting. So expectations. What do we expect from everyone? Chairs? Well, first and foremost, we expect you to be the facilitator. That facilitator in chief role, I like to call it. You're there to lead the discussion through inclusiveness and through participation. And it's also very important, as I'm sure you all are aware, to be impartial. Focus on the desire of the group and not personal desires or agendas. Help to create buy-in. And the only way to do that, to get that buy-in, is through impartiality. So if you're not impartial on something, people will pick up on that pretty quickly, and then the room is no longer unbiased, and it's hard to get work done. Second, preparation. You're going to hear me say this a lot, but work with your staff liaison to develop the agenda, create a work plan, and to use the meeting efficiently and effectively. And remember to keep the group active in between meetings. A lot of the work that can be done for the council or committee can be done in between meetings. Next is set expectations with your group. Don't be afraid to say, I expect you to attend most meetings, and I expect you to write an article, or I expect you to work on a subcommittee and work diligently. And if you set that expectations up front after that first meeting in an email, I promise you the work of the council or committee will go much easier. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, one thing I wanted to mention is the board liaisons, which is very important. I will be assigning every member of the board to section councils and to some committees. And what I think it's important is that's how we will be able to get feedback. We're going to have 4 board meetings. One is going to be in July, the other in October. And then we have the mid-year meeting, so there's plenty of feedback with respect to that, and that the board can speak to me, any of the members of the board who are the liaisons to the sections and the committee. And then we'll have an April and May. So I will be calling or asking them to report on any questions that the chairs, vice chairs, or any of the members of the section council or committee will have, so we have a two-way communication. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. The board members are there in the room, and that's an important distinction I neglected, but they're there to advise, help maybe advise the council or committee on what the board is thinking, and also when they get back to that boardroom or they sit down with the president, they can advise that president on what that group is thinking. So the board members are actually a very important role of any section council or committee. And as chairs, we expect you to set the tone. Oh. I'm sorry. So, oh, do you want to?
Board liaisons will be established before June 1, and we'll work carefully with Melissa as well as President-elect McCluskey. So shortly after in the beginning of June, those announcements will be made, and they will be well known in advance of the annual meeting.
Mm-hmm. Great question. So we also expect the chairs to set the tone for the meeting. It's important that when you start the meeting, you start off on a positive or on a good note. That will really help you create buy-in and participation in the meeting. But don't be afraid to shut down inappropriate or rude behavior. I know that's sometimes hard as a chair to stop conversation, but as chair, that's your role. This is your meeting to control. So what do we expect of members? First and foremost, to participate, and that's easier said than done. We want members to participate in the conversation during the meetings, to participate in the subcommittee work, and we expect them to attend meetings. I mean, how many of you have been on a council or a committee when there's at least 2 or 3 people that don't show up? Right? I mean, everybody's hand should go up because, I mean, I know it. And it's consistent, too. It would be prudent for, and I always give this advice to the chairs, to reach out to them, to reach out to those members, because a lot of times it could be something personal that's going on in their life. Sometimes it's just I've had other commitments. I apologize, but by reaching out to them personally, you can understand what's going on. And sometimes it's like, I actually do not have time for this, and that's okay. It's okay to bow out gracefully, and we understand. We don't hold it against someone. You know, if this is not their time, we'll try again later. That's okay. Because I guarantee you that there are 20 other people that want to get on this council and can do the work. So if they are, if they want to bow out, that's okay. We'll accept that. And we also ask that every member of a committee or council write an article or help coordinate a CLE. So that's important. And if you set that expectation with that group at that first meeting, when you go back to them and say, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. What's going on? I set this expectation for you to attend the meetings and to do some work, and I haven't seen anything from you. That's a really easy segue for them to be like, oh, I apologize. That's on me. So make sure that they know that, and you set that expectation with them. So the secretaries, as I mentioned before, are there to record the action, not what was said. And this always happens, and this is how life works, but they're not always able to attend all of the meetings, and that's okay. But we also ask that they help to find a replacement for those meetings, and if nothing else, just to reach out to your staff liaison and be like, hey, I can't make this meeting. Can you help me find a replacement? And we can help you do that, because there's been many times I've been halfway through a meeting and I was like, oh, our secretary's not here. We gotta stop what we're doing and find someone to help record the action. And then we also ask the secretaries to return the minutes to us within 2 weeks, although that's a pipe dream most of the time. I don't know how this happened this year, but I have 5 secretaries that after the first 5 minutes, I've got the meeting minutes. So that's really nice. Next, I just want to cover some really boring stuff with you, so bear with me, but I'm going to make this a little interactive. So the question is, does the ISBA mandate that councils and committees follow either Robert's Rules of Order or the Standard Code of Parliamentary Procedure? Anybody? It's either or. It's neither, actually. Trick question. Well, there is no bylaw provision or standing policy. Historically, we have followed, and it is best practice to follow Robert's Rules of Order. So quorum, I think this question comes up quite a bit. What is quorum? And unless it's already stated in your group's mission statement, quorum is half the membership plus 1. So if you have a group of 20, your quorum is 11. And that doesn't have to be in person. It's a combination of in person and over the phone. Does anyone know the average percentage of members attending meetings in person or via conference call? 61%. 61%. And the average number of members attending a conference call only meeting is 60%. The average number of members attending a meeting that is outside the CRO, so an outside meeting, is 40%. So participation outside of the Chicago office is dwindling fast. When we used to have meetings, in Galena and East St. Louis, when we'd have half of the, or if not more, 75% of the members show up, we're about 40 now. And sometimes we are struggling to get quorum at those meetings. So when you're thinking about having an outside meeting, check with the staff liaison, see what the history is of your group. Yes? No. Unfortunately, no. So the annual and the mid-year meetings do not have conference call options, and that is due to cost. It would cost us roughly about $20,000 to have a conference call option in all of the meetings, and so to save costs, we've decided to cut that.
So the incoming people in the sections know that?
They should know that. That's part of the staff liaison's responsibilities, to inform them that that there is no conference call options for those two meetings. Lindsay?
Yeah, so half of my council is down in Springfield where I am, and it seems like the other half is here.
Mhm.
So when we have the meetings, they're actually in Springfield today for their kind of out-of-office meeting. But when we have regular meetings and, people are here and everyone meets here, is there an option for those of us in Springfield to meet at the 2nd Street office and phone in together so we're not all, hanging out in our offices or sitting at our houses?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as there's not another meeting going on in the Springfield office, we can definitely accommodate that. So have two meetings happening at the same time. In fact, that's what's going on with healthcare right now. Is half of them are in Carbondale, and a couple other people were here in Chicago at the same time. Bob?
Mr. Thies
Oh,
has a question.
Mr. Thies,
I'm not
yeah.
gonna comment.
Thank you. So having a meeting outside of the Chicago regional office is, on the surface, a good idea, like one a year. I'm from downstate, but if I use your statistics, I'm thinking we shouldn't ever meet out of Chicago. Why has this happened? Why is it 40%? Do we have more members focused in the Chicago area? And should we be trying to encourage something?
And I don't want to discourage having an outside of Chicago office meeting, because it is important to get across the state, and especially downstate, it's so important. But yes, right? So, a majority of the ISBA membership is in the Chicagoland area. And think about it. So to travel to a meeting, even if you're downstate, it's a good half a day out of your practice to come to a meeting, to get to Galena, to get to Springfield, to even get to Chicago. And we've been really lucky in that our downstate members have been really nice to us and will make the trip to come up to Chicago and to attend our meetings. What we've noticed, it's hard to get these Chicago attorneys downstate. Oh, yes, sir.
Maybe this is a controversial question. I'm finding that the reason people don't go other places and want to call in is because there's really no CLE going on at the section council meetings. That the meetings really are business meetings. When's the next program, get the newsletters out, and that's it. So I have 2 or 3 questions. One, is there CLE going on at the meetings? I know we're getting 1 CLE credit for the meeting. Even if no CLE is going on at the meeting, we're still getting that 1 CLE hour credit. Can we increase the meetings to 2 hours so that we put in 1 hour of CLE, substantive law, program for the section council members and get CLE credit for that? I've been told no. But years ago, I'm talking 30 years ago when I was chair of the labor and employment section, we would have 2-hour meetings, and 1 hour would be substantive CLE, and we would get 2-hour CLE credit. So what's the deal? And I think if we added that extra hour with that opportunity for CLE substance, we'd get more people to be in attendance for more networking, more social interaction.
Yes, sir. So I'm
that's my controversial question.
Not at all. Thank you for asking that. I'm going to turn it over to Jeannie Heaton, the director of CLE, to tell you why that's a no. Jeannie.
Yeah, I can explain a little bit about why our CLE model doesn't really encourage that.
You're going to hear about in my presentation how many people are taking CLE online with us, and it's a really high number. So we try to capture all of the CLE that we present so that we can record it and share that information with all of our members. And when you have a section council or committee meeting, you're sharing that information with, 15 people or 20 people, and it's very limited for the effort that goes in to do that CLE. Yes, it might bring people to your meeting, but really our goal is to capture as much content as we can in the CLE catalog, and we found that the best ways are to hold a CLE program here that's either live program, live webcast, or to do a live webinar from someone's office so that it can reach the whole section membership easily. And to have multiple meetings going on up here and capturing that CLE content, we just don't have the CLE resources. We have one videographer, we have one studio, and so we'd be losing that great content, and we just want to encourage you to get that, take that speaker and bring them into the studio and webcast it out to the whole Yeah, you can only get 1 hour for the actual meeting, section council or committee meeting, up to 1 hour. It's what you're talking about as to substantive law, something that improves the professional competence of the attorney. As long as you're talking about that, you can get up to 1 hour for your meeting. So that's sort of the incentive for the CLE.
I think my theory is people are not going out of their hometown to attend the section council meetings is because it's a business meeting and you're going 4-hour drive for 1 hour business meeting that you could have over the phone. So therefore we lose that wonderful networking opportunity which we love to get together afterwards for dinner. So that's why it'd be nice to have a 2-hour meeting, and I understand you'd want to give credit for that, but just understand I think that's the reason why.
Yeah.
Also understand that in today's very busy world, one of the most valuable possessions our members have is time. And a long time ago, land far, far away, the Board of Governors used to start their meetings on Friday morning, meet all day Friday, have a social event on Friday night, and then meet until noon on Saturday. That doesn't happen anymore. And I think that general trend of our members being very conscious of their time enters into this too. I'm going to take this opportunity just to interject one thing. This is about something that's new on the horizon, maybe, and your thoughts are welcome. And this relates to the mid-year meeting. Many of you are familiar with the traditional mid-year meeting format where we have a number of our committees and section councils hold business meetings on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You're required to pay a registration fee for attendance at the mid-year meeting. You are reimbursed for your travel and lodging subject to the expense policy criteria. There's an idea that is floating around a little bit for a future mid-year meeting that would look something like this, and that is that the CLE and the luncheon and the Supreme Court reception / dinner and or event and the assembly meeting would be at a nearby hotel, and that all committee and section council meetings over Thursday, Friday, and Saturday would be held here in the ISBA Chicago office and the ISBA Mutual Insurance Company headquarters downstairs. There wouldn't be a registration fee to attend. We would have Wi-Fi in every room and conference phones available for all of the business meetings. This is kind of in the formative stages, but I thought I'd take this opportunity just to get kind of a first impression view from you. Is that something in which you think your members might like to participate, or you like the traditional format that we've observed for mid-year meetings in the past and currently? Yes, no, maybe not. We don't like it.
Meh.
We'll do it the easy way. How many would be interested in having us further pursue this construct? Raise your hand. How many would like to stay with the old, staid, same old program? If you have further thoughts about this, and we'll be talking with you more, this isn't something that's going to be decided at the top and without any input, but again, know that this is being considered, and this is really a way to potentially better use our facilities here and also make the meetings more convenient and conducive for you. Lori.
Something you want us to discuss with our membership?
Sure.
Annual?
Sure.
So we can put that
You are free to discuss this. Judge Crowder.
This would not end up being out at Rosemont then, like we would stay downtown for everything?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. No, this particular meeting construct would be downtown Chicago during the holiday season, better utilizing this facility in a nearby hotel, so that we could also accommodate this IJA organization.
I've received questions as to why the annual meeting for the Illinois State Bar Association is in Wisconsin.
Bob?
One of the real purposes of the annual meeting is collegiality and networking. When we have a meeting in our own backyard right here in Chicago, attendance is okay. Participation and staying on site is not quite as good. So you find that our members will come in to their business meeting, their organizational meeting, and then go home. And so, well, why not have the meeting at a facility in Illinois that's outside the Chicago area? There isn't one. There isn't a single resort-type facility in Illinois that could adequately accommodate the numbers that we have. And so we end up going into Chicago's backyard, Lake Geneva. That's something that can always, and there are also times we've been down to St. Louis too, which is also another feasible venue for the number of hotel rooms and meeting space that we need for that. But that's kind of been the guiding philosophy. It is a question that we oftentimes hear. If we could guarantee the same feel of the annual meeting, which for all practical purposes is a reward for the official family. And I think that's a very legitimate purpose for that meeting, to bring together leadership committees and sections for their first meeting, to accommodate the changing of the guard, so to speak, in a conducive setting. If we could do that in the Chicago area, we would. The last time, 1976, when we had an annual meeting downtown, was the least well-attended annual meeting, second only to Springfield, Illinois, the home. So does that help? I may not adequately answer all of the components, but that's been the rationale that's been used. I'm done interrupting you.
It's about time. Any other questions? Okay. And just one more thing. I'm so sorry. Yes.
Is it a requirement for every section to have their meeting in Lake Geneva? I'm on the Ag Law section and as well as the Mineral Law section. The Mineral Law Section Council.
We encourage almost all committees and sections to have their organizational meetings. However, those whose constituencies are almost all south of I-64, we do make accommodations to have meetings that are apart from the end, simply because of the travel costs.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's actually important to note. So at the annual meetings, you will never see I think it's Mineral Law at the annual meeting, because they are meeting in and I think St. Louis, right? Yeah, St. Louis. And so, but because most of their members are downstate. David, yes.
Is there a policy on the number of meetings per year, or how many can be outside of Chicago?
Sure. Yeah. So we don't have a minimum, but I like to tell the sections to meet at least, and committees to meet at least 4 times a year. That's just to make sure that we're getting all the work done, we're not missing anything, and that we're still active and we're out there. Outside of Chicago meetings, section councils and committees are allowed one meeting, and that's just due to cost. Because our outside of Chicago meetings do end up by costing us a lot of extra money, because we have to pay for the room and the travel to get down there. So the outside of Chicago meetings end up by costing us more, and that's why we limit it to 1. Of meetings, there is not a maximum number of meetings. However, if you're meeting more than 10 times a year, you are wasting time. You are wasting members' time. You're not using it effectively or efficiently. So I like to keep that in the back of everyone's mind. I'm not going to put put a limit and say, no, you can't meet, you cannot get work done. But if you're meeting more than 10 times, it's just not smart. Yeah, it's a lot. And just to real quickly go back to the quorum issue, this is a nice little highlight that I like to tell everyone. Unless someone brings up a question of quorum, it is assumed. So unless someone at the meeting says, hey, do we have quorum? It is automatically assumed per Robert's Rules of Order that you have quorum. But once that question is asked, then you then have to establish quorum. And if you don't have quorum, that doesn't mean your meeting is done. That just means that you can't vote on any actions of the council or committee. It's just there for reporting purposes only. You can't even approve the minutes, but you can still have that meeting. And how to take attendance. I wanted to bring this up with everyone because, I mean, that seems like a really easy thing, but that's one big issue and problems that we see. It's best practices if you're in an in-person meeting just to go around the room, have everyone introduce themselves. But if you're in a conference call only meeting or you have half of your membership on the conference call, it's not best to say, who's on the call? And then all of a sudden you have 20 people at the same time. You know, Bill, Paul, Pete, we're all here. It's great. It's best to actually ask either the secretary or your staff liaison to do a roll call. And I know it seems very boring, but when everyone's shouting out their names, we miss people. And then they don't get their CLE credits, and then, you know, we get an angry phone call. We're trying to avoid that. So if you're on a conference call, have your staff liaison or secretary do a roll call. And last, I just want to leave you with some quick tips and things to remember for your year as chair. First, as I said before, prepare ahead of time. You know who to call on for reports, who's going to be at the meeting, who's going to make a motion. It's always best to prepare and have your staff liaison help you prepare. Have your staff liaison reach out to those committees, make sure that they're ready to give a report. Does anyone know the #1 complaint from members about meetings? It's about time. Yep, it's about time, yes. That meeting was too long, and this was a waste of my time. It could have been an email. Excuse me. Time is the #1 challenge for any bar association, or any volunteer association for that matter. We struggle to get members' time and then to keep those members' time, and that changes monthly, if not weekly, if not daily. So only meet when you have a reason to meet. Don't meet just for the sake of having a subcommittee report. Or even worse, no report. Most of the work of the council or committee can be done in between meetings. And this is where you can use your staff liaisons to, set up a conference call for that subcommittee to help them get that work done. And by doing that, you're using your members' times effectively and efficiently. Like I said, keep that group productive in between meetings. Don't be afraid to say, I would like a detailed report from you, from your committee, by the mid-year meeting. Or, I would like you to present on this issue at the next meeting. You are the chair. You are there to set expectations and get work done. And then again, set those expectations at that first meeting. If not at that first meeting, because not everyone's there, send it in an email. Thanks for participating. Thanks for being here. I expect you to participate in this subcommittee. I expect you to write this article. No one's going to begrudge you for setting those expectations at that first meeting. This is just a quick tip I like to give chairs, is that, how many of you have had a motion seconded and you start debate and everyone raises their hands because I have an opinion and I need to tell it, and it's all at once. The best practice is what I like to tell my chairs is say, okay, David, you get 2 minutes, then Judge, you get 2 minutes, then Michael, you're getting 2 minutes, and we're going to go in that order. So write them down so they're not standing there with their hands up in the air for 45 minutes. Just write their names down, and after your 2 minutes, I'm going to call on the judge, and he gets 2 minutes, and then after that, Michael, you get 2 minutes, and then we're stopping conversation. It's your meeting, so you get to control who speaks and when they speak. And feel empowered to also stop conversation if it's going off track. So how many times have you seen a member say, I'm very passionate about subject A, but this is related to K and L and M and N, and it just goes on and on and on. Don't be afraid to say, hey, thank you for your comments. Those other issues are very important to us too. We're still on topic A. Let's stay there, and let's continue this conversation another time. No problem. Does anyone know how many times a member can speak on a motion per Robert's rules? Bob does. It's only twice, actually. So, how many times you've seen someone say, I am so passionate about this. I am going to keep talking. Well, technically, you only have 2 times to speak on an issue. So if that person raises that hand a 3rd time, thank you so much for your comments. If you'd like, we can continue this conversation after the meeting. However, you are limited to only speaking twice. And lastly, remember that staff is here for you. As staff liaisons, I tell all the staff liaisons that your number 1 job is to make your chairs look good. That is your job this year, is to make them look good. Tell your staff liaison, like, do you mind helping me get this subcommittee up and running? Do you mind helping me with this work? Ask them for help. That's what we're here for. And above all else, just have fun. This year is going to fly by, and the next thing you know, you're ex officio. So enjoy it, enjoy your time, and just have fun. And my last question for everyone, because I couldn't think of a really good question, it's actually a Bob question. Does anyone know the first address of the ISBA Chicago office? So where we were first located when we came to Chicago? I didn't either. That was the second one, actually. It was 333 North Michigan Avenue. So for a time we were on Michigan Avenue back in 1981. So I'm going to turn things over to Jeannie Heaton. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, David.
When will we know the final roster of our section council?
So rosters are always changing, I like to say. By the annual meeting, it should be firm and set. Once the board liaisons have been appointed, the chairs will get that second roster one more time. This is your group. There could always be someone else added, or someone say, "Hey, I can't do this." And once that happens, that staff liaison will let you know.
After June 1, it's appropriate to communicate with our section council to say, welcome, and here's what the first meeting's going to be after June 1.
Yes, absolutely. After June 1 is appropriate. Yes. Oh, is it on?
Can we get a list of and contact information for all the chairs, all the section and committee chairs?
That is a great question. In fact, not only are you going to get all the chairs information, but we are setting up, by the end of the day, a community inside of ISBA Central just for chairs. So all of the chairs, even the ones that aren't here today, will have access to that community, and you'll be able to email them just through that one, email address. You can send them updates about, hey, you know what, Women in Law is putting on this really great afternoon tea event and this great CLE. You should come. And then Lori will be able to send it to all of you, and you can share what's going on with your groups, with the rest of them. So this is a good way for all of us to stay in touch. Any other questions? Great. Jeannie?
All right, we do this at CLE programs, so while I am pulling up my PowerPoint slides and things, I want you to find someone in the room that you don't know and introduce yourself while I'm doing this for just a second, that you don't know already. All right, I'm going to pull you back. See how much fun that was? And a CLE program, it is a great way to just raise the energy in a room, and we put that on all of our moderator announcements, and we encourage people to do that, because that's part of what coming to a live program is meeting people, making those connections that you didn't have before. So thank you for doing that. Am I not on? Am I on? Can you hear me? Yeah. All right, I'm Jeannie Heaton. I'm the director of CLE. Thank you so much for coming today. We really appreciate it. And as I was thinking about the presentation, I know that you're busy chairs, you have a lot to do, you have a lot on your mind, you're going to hear a lot of things today. And so I thought, what can be the one thing that I show you, that I teach you, that I ask of you? Because you're getting a lot of requests today, you're getting a lot of information. And research tells us that if you go to a program or a training and you come out of there with 2 to 3 things that you're going to do or implement or changes you're going to make, that was a success. So I know you're getting a lot of good tips and direction on things from our other speakers. So for CLE, it's just going to be one thing. So as I prepared to tell you one thing, I thought I'm going to check with the CLE staff and the CLE committee and see what would be their one thing that they would want you to know. So I checked with Ashley, our CLE administrator, and she thought the one thing you should know is that you need to check the CLE catalog and see if you have the right programs in there, because nearly 80% of our CLE hours are delivered electronically now, nearly 80%. That's a lot of hours. That's primarily because of our free CLE. Members can get 15 hours per bar year online of free CLE. So please go into the catalog, see what topics are missing, and program for that topic area. So if someone's coming to Trust and Estates for the first time and they want to get a foundation in that practice area, we've got the content in our catalog. That'll make us invaluable to our members. Additionally, we've established just this year a way for you to refresh content that is evergreen. If you did a program on, boot camp or basics and nothing's changed in your area of law and it's still a good program, let your staff liaison know, let the CLE liaison to your committee know, and we can reapply for accreditation, because normally programs last 2 years in the catalog from the recording date, but we can extend that. So we're happy to do that, and that's something we think is going to allow you to keep good content up. I talked to Jackie, our CLE registrar, and she wanted you to know that live on-site attendance is decreasing. It's just happening nationwide. It's not just our programming. Lawyers are getting used to watching CLE online. So if you have a program, you do a lot of work planning and preparing, don't be too disappointed if the crowd's not big. We're still recording it for our archives, and so hundreds of more people are going to see it. But just keep that in mind. And on that note, think about your audience. Because your audience is all online, if you're recording the program, it is great to have interactive sessions, and you can incorporate those into the day, but those don't record well. So you might want those speakers to come back into our studio and record that later if they've done something interactive. Just always keep that online audience in mind. Nearly 80% of your viewers are going to be online. So when I talked to Drew, he's our video producer, and he's sitting in the studio right now recording this session for the chairs who couldn't be here, and so that's why we're making use of the microphones, and that's why we do that at our CLE programs, knowing that lots of people want to hear that question that was asked from the floor. Drew wanted you to know that there's multiple formats for your programs. We recently expanded our studio. We can accommodate your big panels now, and we've got a great setup. So come in and we'll stream your content live to members, and they can ask questions right at the time of the program. Or if you have a speaker downstate and one upstate, you can do a webinar. As long as they have an internet connection, they can talk over their audio slides, and it can be a short 1-hour webinar. It accommodates our members well. And then, of course, the standard live programming that we were talking about. We, of course, prefer that your live programming be here at the Chicago office, because we've got the mounted cameras, we've got the good microphones, we've got the system to make sure that we capture a high-quality product. When we go to hotels and off-site venues that we're not familiar with, like we did recently once, the microphones weren't working for half the room, so we don't know what kind of quality we'll be able to capture. So we encourage you to use this facility, and we're very happy that the ISBA Mutual is downstairs, because they have a nice, beautiful classroom that we can use as overflow and breakouts as long as we book them in advance. We rent out their facility for CLEs. So we can accommodate between this room when it's open and the back room, so we can broadcast to about 100 people here on site, and then for breakouts they've got about another 70 chairs downstairs. So we've really invested in the facility, and we encourage you to use it for your live programming. Now, when I talked to Janine, she's our program coordinator, she wanted to make sure that you read the handout. I'm talking about CLE. We want you to give CLE materials at your program, so I brought you some CLE materials today. And those talk about the expectations. The CLE committee has looked at the size of your sections and committees and the size of the membership, and sort of given you just a rough guideline of how many programs we would expect you to do each year. We are encouraging everyone who does CLE, and I know some of you here don't do CLE. You're not precluded from it, but we don't think that sometimes some of your topics naturally lend themselves to CLE, but if you want to do it, great. But for those who we really have a lot of members involved, we want you to do 1 or 2 webcasts a year, and then the big sections, we want you to do 2 live programs, 0 to 2. So look through those expectations from the CLE committee, and you'll see that some of you, we want you to do back to basics, again, to ensure that we have that good starter quality program in our catalog, and that we continue to bring in new members. The other thing that's in your handout is the master planning calendar. Now, this is not set in stone, but it's the chicken and egg problem about when can I have my program. So we decided that we would assign you a temporary date, working with your coordinators usually, for your program, so that as you're having your meetings, you can program and think about that date in your calendar. If there's a conflict in your area of law, something going on that day, we'll be glad to change it. But you, as chairs, will actually be programming CLE, you and your councils and committees, for 2019. CLE works 4 to 5 months out, or 4 to 6 months out, because of the need to promote things and to get the speakers booked and to get the materials in and to get everything coordinated. It's just we have a lot of moving parts because we do a lot of programs. We probably do 70 live programs a year, about 50 webcast webinars, and we have over 400 hours of content in the catalog. So it's a big production for the ISBA, CLE, but if you do that, kind of get an idea, that gives you something to work toward. Stacy is our copywriter editor, and her one thing that she wanted me to make sure that you knew is to have your committee or coordinator complete the proposal form. We do have a proposal form on these websites. You can download that at any time and fill it out, and that kind of helps us to know who's your target audience. What are the learning objectives that you're trying to accomplish with this program? Who are the speakers going to be? What's the description? And once you give that to CLE staff, we take it from there. You've done the hard work of identifying the great CLE topics and the great CLE speakers, and that is invaluable work for ISBA. We really appreciate that. And after you do that, then we'll book the venue, we'll hound the speakers for materials. Hopefully you've clued them in that they need them. But those proposal forms, I know they're a little long, but if you skim through, once you've used them a few times, I think you kind of know what information we need. And again, your coordinator will be doing that in consult with the committee. The CLE committee, the one thing they would like you to know is that we need your help developing new faculty. We have a great law ed faculty in ISBA. We work with between 700 and 800 volunteer speakers every year, which is amazing to me. I'm always astounded at how much our members give back to the profession in terms of CLE. But we need new speakers. We need to incorporate those younger attorneys. And so we have a couple ways for you to do that. One way would be at your live programs. Take an experienced speaker and kind of assign them a younger attorney who might have speaking potential and bring them onto the panel. Maybe give them one case to give a case law update on, or one part of the hour-long presentation, and try to give them an opportunity to get involved. Another option is our Quick Takes for Your Practice video series. About 1 day a month, we open the Chicago studio to you, your section council members, new attorneys, anybody who wants to come in and film a quick take. We recommend they be 3 to 5 minutes. Sometimes they run 8, 10, because I know you attorneys, there's an issue, you have to talk about it. But we recommend for the viewing audience, just in time information on, here's the five things you need to do to prepare for your first court appearance. And somebody comes in and they record that. That's a good way to sort of try out a new speaker too. And we've been trying to get younger attorneys involved in that. We have a question, and I'm going to make you use the microphone because, where's the microphone? We're recording, and I'm thinking about the aftermarket. I'm always thinking about those viewers. You know what, I'll repeat your question. Go ahead and tell me.
That's all right. You can probably hear me. So, being from downstate, from Belleville, would we, if we came up here for one of those quick take things on the 1 month that you open the studio up,
okay, quick takes.
Bring somebody with me.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, the quick take. Okay, so the question was, what about downstate attorneys and speakers who want to do a quick takes? Do we reimburse? We do not reimburse. We request that you do it when you're close, but we have a session in Springfield once or twice a year, and those dates should be on the calendar that will be in your annual meeting agenda. I think we've got our dates set. So if you could get to Springfield, we'll record you there. So either here or Springfield is what we're doing. If you're it's a little bit hard to coordinate, but if you work with your staff liaison, if you've got somebody who's interested, we'll work with you to get it done. Yeah. The other thing, another question.
Are the quick takes designed for attorneys or for consumers?
The quick takes for your practice are designed for attorneys. We push those out typically every Thursday if we have one in our Illinois Lawyer Now blog, email, in our newsletter, and we have a catalog of them on the blog. So they are designed for attorneys speaking to attorneys on some short practice tips. The consumer videos are handled in another way, and those are more like the Ask a Lawyer videos, and those are geared toward the consumer, and I think your staff liaisons would be the ones to help you with those. The CLE ones you would schedule through the CLE department. So they're not really CLE creditable. At this time, a program has to be 30 minutes long under the MCLE rules to get credit. So we are just doing these sort of to drive traffic to our website, and we often cross-promote, like if it's a CLE speaker who's come in to do a quick take and they've spoken on a full topic, at the end we'll say, for more information, view the Trust and Estates Boot Camp in the ISBA CLE catalog, or turn to the newsletter for this section council, or join this section so that you get the newsletters and we'll have more information. So we kind of tease them. It's just a nice way to sort of reach out to a generation that wants everything by video. We're trying to get there, and we're using our leaders in the ISBA, our speakers, and our section and council and committee members. Any other questions on those? We also wanted to let you know that the CLE committee will appoint a CLE liaison to your section or committee if you do CLE. They're just there as a resource. They want to help you if you have any questions. They want to encourage you to do your requested programming, and we want you to use that resource, anytime, any questions. The same for CLE staff. Call us if you want any information. That we do have a robust website resource for CLE coordinators, CLE faculty, so check that out. You might get some of your questions answered there, but we want you to know that. So now we are, though, to the one thing that I want you to know about. The one thing I want you to do as a chair. You're responsible, you are dedicated, you're hardworking, you're busy. But if you do this one thing, and that is appoint the best CLE coordinator you can appoint, someone who will be dedicated to doing the work, to meeting the expectations that we've asked of you, someone who will take the time to call speakers and remind them, oh, we need your materials, or, you're great on this topic, can you please be at the ISBA at a certain time, and to just really do the foundation, to work with your section or committee and communicate well. Guys, tell me, what's the best topic? What do we need to be talking about? What's hot in our substantive law area? Appoint that person by June 1st. And then we, in turn, will invite them to the annual meeting. We have a coordinator training. It's especially good for new coordinators. If you've got an experienced coordinator, they're not required to come, but they're certainly welcome to. We do reimburse them for one night because we're going to be working them hard this year, and so we invite them to the annual meeting, and they will become a member of your council. You have that responsibility. It could be someone from your section council roster or committee roster, or it can be someone outside. If you think there's someone who didn't get appointed, but who will do a great job with CLE, you can appoint them. So this is your sort of a prerogative of the chair, but I really want you to take it seriously and really think about CLE and the things that we've asked you to do. That's the one thing, that I want you to take out of this today is that, I got to get my CLE coordinator by June 1st. So do you have any questions? I wanted to be brief. Yes. Oh, wait, we got a microphone. Sorry, I'm trained with CLE.
Some of us haven't received the roster of the members, so there's a gap if we're getting the list by June 1st and we have to appoint. So if there's military affairs.
Oh, we'll take care of that.
Yeah, if you're not sure, if the person you're thinking about and you're not sure if they're on the section council, yeah, check with your staff liaison.
Oh. Is there any other group that has not received their roster yet? We will get that to you by the end of the day.
Any other questions on CLE? I know a lot of you are familiar with it. You've been working a long time. We're into, the 11th year of mandatory CLE in Illinois, something like that. It was 2006, 12th year. So thank you for all you've done. I think our reputation is growing in the industry with our attorneys, and even among other states. I think we're known to have a really good product. And, part of that is the free CLE. I have coordinators say, I like doing CLE for ISBA because I know that I can get this information to new attorneys who need to know this, but they maybe don't have the resources to buy training on it. And so we put it out there for free so that they can come and learn the basics in their practice area. So thank you for all you do. It's a pleasure and a privilege to work with you and help ISBA provide the best CLE that we can. Thanks so much. And I'm going to introduce Tim Slading and Sarah Anderson for the next presentation. Which I will escape.
Already loaded.
Well, no, I got to get out of mine.
You're just trying to exit out of here?
Yeah.
Where's
The
I'm not even
cursor's
seeing
gone.
your cursor.
Here. No. Here comes through the master.
PC users.
Here's the.
I think mine were just folded into the general PowerPoint that we've been using. Yeah, this is me. All right, so good morning, everybody. I'm Tim Slading. I'm our Assistant Executive Director for Communications, and this is Sarah Anderson, our Publications Manager. So Sarah oversees some of the programs I'm going to be talking to you about, but you can sit, I'm not going to make Sarah stand up here with me all morning. So Sarah's probably going to be helping me answer some of the questions you guys might have about our publications. So I oversee our communications department. This slide here just gives you a snapshot of what we do in the communications department. So we oversee all of the publications from the Bar Association, the Bar Journal, Eclipse, all of our newsletters. And most important for you, we oversee our section and committee newsletters. And outside of publications, the communications department also oversees our website, marketing, advertising sales for the Bar Association, public relations, and our online lawyer finder directory, Illinois Lawyer Finder. So I guess kind of back to Mr. Thies's question, I probably should have chimed in earlier, but so if you guys are getting contacted by reporters, there's usually a strong chance it's because I've given your name to a reporter. So traditionally, the reporters will contact us in the communications department asking for experts who can speak on certain issues and serve as interview subjects for articles. So the majority of the time, we usually try to go to the section chair for the substantive area of the law, and usually we do our darndest to try to reach out and contact you and let you know that we've given your name to the reporter. But oftentimes, the reporters are on short deadlines, and they're trying to act quickly, and they're reaching out to you before I can get in touch with you. And so it kind of depends, too, and if you're in a substantive area that has a lot of action, like, for example, I see Don back there in the corner. We get DUI questions and traffic-related questions all the time, and most staff knows, tell them to call Don. So, like I said, we do our best to try to reach out and give you that heads up, but a lot of the time, so if you're contacted out of the blue, feel free to ask that reporter if you were referred to them by somebody at the ISBA, but in most cases, that's what's going on behind the scenes. So with that, I'm going to go in and talk a little bit about what role you, the section council and committee chairs, play in the publications program at the ISBA. So first and foremost, the section and committee newsletters, which you guys have been hearing a lot about. I'll go into a little more depth on that. And that's a firm requirement on the section councils to get the newsletters done. And then also we have consumer legal guides, which are public brochures that we make available to the public. I'll go into that in more detail in some further slides, but that's a required activity to help us update those public brochures. And then I'll talk a little bit about our books program, and this is really optional. Some section councils decide to do book projects and create books for us to sell to members. And that's definitely something, we like to have happen, but it's not a formal requirement that's placed on you. The same thing with Illinois Bar Docs, our new form-based document assembly system. I'll have a couple slides I can tell you a little bit about that and what role your section council or committee could play in furthering that program, should you so choose. So, like I said, the biggie's the section and committee newsletters. So most of you know each section and the vast majority of committees are required to produce at least 4 newsletters per year. And those are hopefully published quarterly. Every 3 months is really the target we want to shoot for, but we realize there's some ebb and flow into how the work goes, and it's not, but the main requirement is that you get those 4 newsletters per year done. And the main reason we ask that is, many members who join your sections view that newsletter as the primary benefit of joining a section. And they expect 4 issues a year. And basically what it boils down to is, the average member is paying $30 to join that section, and for a lot of those section members who aren't really involved, they're viewing the fact that they bought 4 newsletters for $30 a year. And if the section doesn't deliver those 4 newsletters, then we're inundated with calls from members angry saying, this was false advertising, I want my money back. I only got 2 newsletters and you promised me 4 and I paid $30, so I want $15 back. And also, the newsletters include a lot of advertising that the ISBA sells, which is a big source of, well, not a big source in the grand scheme of things, but nonetheless it's a source of non-dues revenue that furthers the mission of the Bar Association and helps us deliver more programs and more services to members. So that's just another reason why we got to stay focused on getting at least those 4 issues. And some of the sections and committees publish a lot more than 4 per year, and that is great. It's just the 4 issues per year minimum that we're focusing on. Another thing I'd just note, a recent change we had in our newsletter program. In the last couple months, we've decided to make all of our ISBA newsletters now digital only. So the way the newsletters work is they are emailed to subscribers who are subscribed to that newsletter, which is predominantly section members, but there are some outside institutional subscribers to some of our newsletters. So the newsletters will now be emailed to members, and there'll be links in that emailed newsletter that will go and link to full articles on the ISBA website. And those articles on the website, the majority of the time, they are locked down for only members of the section, and subscribers to the newsletter can access the articles. So they're on our website, but they're not available for all members to view. And then I will just note, we're working on a new template right now, so you'll see probably in the next month or so, the look of the emailed newsletters will significantly change. And that'll probably be, hopefully, within the next month. So the process for producing these newsletters, you have a newsletter editor who is within your section council or your section, and the members of the section and the council submit their articles to that newsletter editor. The editor then compiles and does an initial rough edit of the articles, gathers all the author release forms, and then forwards that all on to the publications manager, Sarah Anderson. And Sarah Anderson then takes the project completely from there. She thoroughly edits all the articles to make sure that they conform to the ISBA style guidelines. She creates the issue on the website, she publishes it, she puts the digital newsletter together, and sends it out to all of the subscribers of the newsletter. So what can you do to help? And the big thing we need you to do is to select that newsletter editor as soon as possible. So we usually say around June 1, but you obviously have to get your rosters first. So sometime in June, we'd like you to select that newsletter editor and notify Sarah Anderson. You can find her information on our website, or if you want to write it down here, it's sanderson@isba.org. And you'll also want to notify your ISBA staff liaison who that newsletter editor is. And I think what you'll find is a lot of the sections have long-standing newsletter editors who have been doing the newsletter for a long time, and they just keep doing it. So, as you've moved through the ranks of your section council, you might know who the newsletter editor is, and just reach out to that person and ask them if they would like to continue doing the section newsletter. And the other big thing you'd like to ask of the section chairs is that you include that newsletter as an item on all of your meeting agendas. Whether it's just, you dedicate 2 or 3 minutes of the meeting, but just keeping it at the top of everybody's mind And you know, I have some sections I've worked with who will put in the number of their subscribers and remind everyone on the council of how many people are getting that newsletter. You know, and I think I've seen just different chairs do it differently, and some are, you know, taskmasters, and they sit there and have the list of all the members of their section council and who's written a newsletter this year and who hasn't. But that's really your decision on how to do that, and it's kind of, you probably want to talk to your newsletter editor and kind of realize what the culture is within your section for the newsletter, because there are distinct different cultures within different sections. Some newsletters have a lot of member involvement who, you know, non-section council members, just regular section members who will write articles and submit them to the newsletter editors. Other smaller sections, it's really a section council project where everybody who's sitting on the section council needs to be tasked with writing at least one article per bar year so that they can keep those the newsletters rolling and hit that 4 newsletter target. But with that, I was going to shift over to the next thing, but I guess maybe I'll stop here before I move on from newsletters. Does anyone have any questions about the newsletters? Oh, yes, definitely. I think there's, I don't know, more than a handful of newsletters that have co-editors. That's, yeah, not a problem at all.
I've had some questions from our section council members already on the new format for the newsletter publication on the website. The question was, I mean, there were a number that liked the PDF format where you could print out the whole thing, put it in your briefcase or whatever, and read it on the train. Is that, I've heard that is in the works, maybe to bring that back. It is in the
works. So, but unfortunately, so as Bob mentioned earlier, we're working on rolling out a new redesign of the ISBA website. And that functionality is going to be a part of the new website because all of the articles are living on the ISBA website. When we roll out the redesign, the newsletter pages are going to be designed in such a way that there is a fully printable version that can come out. It won't be laid out like a PDF, probably like they were in the past, but there will be a way to print out the entire issue without having to go and click through each article. Yep. Anything else? All right. Well, I'll move on to the consumer legal guides. And what these are public brochures that the ISBA creates to help legal consumers in Illinois with common legal problems. So, for example, we have a brochure on what your rights if arrested. We have one on estate planning, one on buying a home. I believe there's like one for advice to newlyweds. There's one about buying on credit. And basically, you know, these are just very general guides that assist the general public with simple legal issues. And what we do with these is we put them up on our website and they're fully accessible by the public. And then we also make print brochure versions that are available for sale to members. And members do many different things with these. You know, some members will have a rack in their office with a lot of these consumer legal guides. A lot of the estate planners who go to community events and community centers and put on seminars about estate planning will take the brochures with them to hand out to the public. Sometimes they'll stick a sticker on the back with their business card or staple their business card to it. But they're a great resource for the public. And the way we create these is Sarah oversees the whole project now, our publications manager. And she oversees all the updating, production, and publication of these brochures. So the role that you guys have to play is getting somebody within your section or your section council to update them. I mean, we update them probably once every 2 years, or if something major happens in the law. And, we're not looking for you guys to be the police out there of these brochures and notify us when there's a change in the law. We've got internal processes in place to do that. But the section councils are called on to actually do the updating once we realize that a given brochure needs to get updated. And another role you can play is suggesting new titles to add to the library of these consumer legal brochures. So I kind of got ahead of myself, but the way you can really help here is, from time to time, and it might not even happen during your year as chair, because like I said, these are updated every so often. But if you should get an email from Sarah asking you to get, Good question.
On these brochures, are they being printed up and sold to officers to give out to people, or what is being done with them?
Yeah, so they go up as HTML pages on our website that the public can access, and then we also print them as, I mean, they're foldable little brochures. Some are stapled, the thicker ones that are booklets, and I'm trying to think. I mean, I think we sell them to members like maybe $20 for every 100 of them. So they're not very expensive. Was that the question?
I mean, that becomes a revenue source for ISBA then.
Oh, we really just sell them at covering the printing costs. I mean, we don't view the public brochures as a revenue source. It's really kind of a benefit we're providing to members of creating these materials that they can hand out to clients and potential clients. So, you know, I think the $20 we charge for the stack of them basically covers our printing, the paper, and the postage. So it's not really a revenue source. I want to look at it like that. But so what I was saying is, so, you know, should Sarah send you an email, and usually the way it works is she'll attach a PDF of the old brochure and send it to you and say, you know, it's come to our attention, we need to update this. Can you find a volunteer on your section council or in the section to read through this brochure and update it accordingly? And, you know, I used to personally do this myself, so I mean, I can stand here and tell you, I mean, it's very broad general information for the public, so it's not like this requires doing legal research and providing citations. These are very, very general brochures. So the other thing that you can do to help is I'd suggest that maybe just on one of your meetings, maybe putting the consumer legal guides on your agenda as a discussion item to just, you know, poll everyone on your section council and see if there's any title that maybe they think a brochure that they think we should be producing that we're not. And all of the list of all of the brochures that we currently have, there's about 30 of them, are on the ISBA website. So, you know, you could copy and paste that into your agenda and say, or maybe not even that. I mean, you could look at the list and pull out the ones that are relevant to your substantive law practice area, and then simply add it as an agenda item to ask the members if maybe there's a title that, you know, you could be producing to put out there and add to the catalog. But really, number one, there's the primary thing that we need out of you guys is just getting them updated when requested to do so. So now we'll move on to ISBA books, I guess. Were there any more questions about the consumer brochures? Okay. So ISBA books, like I said earlier, is a completely optional project for a section council or committee. We currently publish around 40 titles of desk books, reference books. Each of our books has a little different flavor. But some of them are written by multiple authors, and probably I want to say 3 or 4 of them right now are section council or committee projects. And the way it works is 2 members on your section council would act as co-editors of the book. Everybody on the section council who wanted to get involved would write a chapter in the book, and basically those co-editors just compile everything and send it on off to ISBA staff, and we take everything from there. We do the final editing of the books, we produce the books, lay them out for print, create electronic versions of them, publish them, and sell them. And, you know, this is a source of non-dues revenue for the bar. Our books are very reasonably priced for members. We also sell them at a non-member price, which is usually about 75% more than the ISBA member price. But like I said, you know, so there's no requirement on any of the sections, councils, or committees. This is completely optional for you guys. So I think all that I would ask is maybe on one of your meeting agendas, just throw an agenda item on there and gauge the interest in your group in possibly doing a book-related project. And if interested, I'm the guy to contact, Tim Slating. I'm at tslating@isba.org. And I can provide you any more details you want about this. If you want more information prior to maybe proposing this to your section council or committee, I'm the guy to talk to. So, like I said, that was going to be really quick. So, any questions on the books? All right. I am moving fast, ladies and gentlemen. We're approaching the end here. So the last slide is about Illinois Bar Docs, and this is another optional project that you guys could choose to take on with your section council or committee. But Illinois Bar Docs is our new document assembly system. It's a cloud-based system that members purchase a subscription to for either $20 a month or $199 a year. And it is only available to ISBA members. Non-members are not allowed to purchase the product. And basically, if you don't know anything about document assembly, what the system does is generates custom forms for the user based on information that's input through a questionnaire interface. And currently we have form sets within Illinois Bar Docs for estate planning. We have a complete estate planning system with related forms. We've got I think a 20-form set of family law forms, as well as a whole suite of real estate forms. So what you could do to help us, again, this is completely optional, but maybe on one of your agenda items, you include Illinois Bar Docs as an agenda item and just gauge interest for putting together a set of forms for whatever your practice area might be. And what I tend to tell members when they ask me, what I have no idea what kind of forms you guys are looking for. Really, the base question is asking yourself, what are the 10 most common forms that an attorney practicing in your practice area would need to operate their practice day to day? And so the way it would work is, if your committee or your section council were interested in doing this, you'd maybe form a subcommittee and have members, donate their version of a given form and maybe circulate it around the section council once you've got a set of forms put together, and once you've got everyone in agreement on the substance of those forms, send them on to me. And just like with the books, I oversee this whole program, so if you have any questions, if you're nervous about putting this on an agenda and wanting more information about it prior to trying to start this discussion, I'm the guy to reach out to and can fill you in on anything you need to know. And I would even be willing to come to your section council meetings if you wanted somebody to come and give you a presentation on what this program is all about, how it works, and how you can help. I am more than happy to do that. So with that was my last slide, like I said. So some questions.
Hi, going back to the newsletter, I'm interested as to whether you've looked into collaboration between different section councils and committees on topics for newsletters, or how would I know if somebody wrote an article in a newsletter that I do not subscribe to, so that it's not repeated by another newsletter? Do you coordinate all of that?
Sarah Anderson is going to be laying out all of the newsletters from here on out, so she would really be the one to ask. Or you could reach out to me, because obviously I have access to every section newsletter. I can search through them on the website. So basically what you just need to do is if you're trying to figure out if another section did it and you don't have access to their newsletters, reach out to somebody on the ISBA staff, and I can do a 10-second search of our website and let you know what previous treatment we've done of that subject.
Do you encourage collaboration between us so that the same article is repeated in different section council newsletters?
Yeah, so oftentimes, a given author will publish the article in a couple different newsletters. Just if the person happens to be in those sections or, knows that a great article that they wrote, is relevant to multiple sections, they'll submit it to the multiple sections. So we have no rule against, once one section newsletter has published it, that's the end of the story. We can't share it elsewhere. That said, we don't want to be filling up all of our newsletters with content that's published elsewhere. So we try to keep it to a minimum, but there's no hard and fast rule against it.
Picking up on that theme, I just wonder whether it would be possible to have a small subgroup of, say, like the editors have access to all, to kind of see what you guys can see, so they could.
Yeah, I think they do.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Melissa's shaking her head. Yeah, I think that's already set up. I think the newsletter editors are given the same access as I am to all of the newsletter articles on the website.
And they receive those newsletters when they come out in real time. So they do have a list of to see them all, even the past ones, and then they get the new ones in real time.
Yeah, and then you send an email, right, Sarah, to the newsletter editors that lists all the articles and issues published in a given quarter?
Yeah, so at the end of every month or shy.
Yep. So at the end of every month or at the beginning of the next month, I will send out, and I already do send out updates on, here's what happened this past month. Here's which sections publish their newsletters. We have, this many new articles. So that's also a way for you to keep up to date on what's been published recently.
And are the chairs copied on that email?
Yeah, all chairs should be on that email.
Yeah, that one. So that one goes to the newsletter editor and the chairs. Yeah. Anything else? Oh. I'll run over there with the mic. Oh. Kimmy's got it.
Continuing with this theme, can members do a search or find, and if they're interested in a particular topic, that the newsletter would pop up if they did the search on the website?
Yes. And to be completely honest, we're rolling out a new search feature on the website probably within the next month. So that's all going to get a lot easier going forward. Basically, we've got a Google Mini search function that runs on our website, and Google has stopped supporting it, so we're implementing a new search tool on the website, and that will actually roll out prior to the website redesign. So we're currently aiming for hopefully sometime in August to getting the new website out, but I think the new search feature will be prior to that. But to answer your question, yes, you can right now with the current search feature on the website, but it's going to get a lot better in about a month. Yeah. All right. Okay, well, thank you guys for your time and attention and for all that you do for the ISBA. You're hearing it all day, but you guys are the lifeblood of what we do, and we can't do what we do without what you guys do for us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim Covington, our Director of Legislative Affairs.
I still do this from high school. When I get ready, I still do. When I get ready to testify or speak, I always put it on an index card because it makes me focus in. It looks like to me I'm about the last thing between you all and lunch. So I'll allocated 20 minutes. I'll try to do it in 10. Take off my watch, see what happens. If you have any questions while I'm gone, feel free to interrupt me. The legislation. We track a lot of bills, and when I started in this job 22 and a half years ago, each 2-year General Assembly filed about 5,000 substantive bills. They now file about 10,000 substantive bills. That is a lot of spaghetti to keep on the fork, and that's a difficult thing for us to do. I use your listserv as a triage to see what you're interested in and how important it is to you. And anytime you have any questions about a lot of this stuff, Jill Gilpin or Kim Wallner, they're very good and they're very capable. They're very customer service oriented. Call them and ask, but we will use those comments to kind of track. I'm talking family law now. When it's explosive, Kim will print those off for me and says you need to take a look at this. And that's one of the ways I use that as a triage system to see what you're interested in and how important it is to you. And it's important that you tell me what's important sometimes. 85 to 90% of our stuff goes through the judiciary committees. So before those committees, I always kind of scan the comments. Kim puts them in a Word file, and I kind of scan through them, and I have kind of an idea where we're going to be, how important it is to us. For you, and I do not use this term pejoratively, but for what I call you odds and ends section counsels, I may not be conversant with what you do. For example, animal law, electronic telecommunications, energy, and that sort of thing. So for you all, if it's something is really important to you, it's not a bad idea to let me know, because I'm just not conversant with the stuff that you do. And that stuff will not go through the Judiciary Committee. So I need to hear from you if something is important. Having said that, I think a valued thing of Section Council membership is, even though I'm sending this stuff to you and we may not or may take action on it, I think it's good for your practices or for you to know what's going on in Springfield, both in legislation and rules, because that's where a lot of the action is. It's all statutory now. It's not as much case law. So if you're in what I call an odds and ends section council, let me know if there's something really important to you, and then if I can find a legal aspect, because a lot of that stuff may be important to your practice and your clients, but there may or may not be a legal aspect, because when I show up, and we're usually opposed to everything, not always, but generally. And most associations are in the same. That's not because we're bad people. Most associations are in the same boat. We just kind of want to be left alone. And because, our own organic system, the legal system, generally will take care of its own issues and problems. It'll just sort through them in time. And that's always one of my pet peeves is when there's a case, even at the, we actually had one at Lake County in the circuit court where they came down and said, we got to have legislation. And it's sort of like usually the legal system will, if there's a problem, it will sort of take care of it in time. But that's what legislators do. People come in their office with problems and they want it solved. The other important thing for me to hear from you is legislators don't like to be told no. They like to be told no, but if you do this, it'll be okay. And a lot of times these bills are not particularly well thought out, and I'm talking family law here again. I love family law, but I'll get these comments, this is stupid, what kind of moron filed this bill and everything else like that. And it's not, and I said, folks, that's not helpful for me to go talk to a legislator and say that. And if you can tell me, here's what our, because, legislators are generally people of goodwill, and you say, here's the problem with this bill. They're usually apt to tell me, okay, fine, fix it for me, So if I can find out what the problem is, then they want us to fix their bill. Sometimes it's in my opinion, the bill is what I call a solution in search of a problem. And it just really, and Adrienne Albrecht, before she went on the bench, was a genius at this. She could amend these bills so it didn't do anything, but there was new text. And so the legislator passed their bill and everybody was happy. So the relationship between us and any other lobbying entity and the General Assembly, it's a relationship. So I can't say no all the time. I've got to be able to say no, but if you do this. And then sometimes, our response is no, but I kind of sense that this legislation's not going to go anywhere because contrary to what you might think, a lot of the legislators, particularly on the Judiciary Committee, are pretty savvy people, and they're well staffed by young attorneys. They're not experienced, but they're smart and they work hard. And they call us all the time and ask for help on these things. And Jim Dash did something as a chair of construction law. Is there somebody here from construction law? He was a good chair this year from what I got from a distance. Their issue on construction laws, depending on who they represent, is where they're going to sit on an issue, which is a natural thing. And they had some bill up that they were divided. He had a rule because of their makeup of their committee, unless they were unanimous on it, they wouldn't take a position. But then they sent me a memo that said, we're not going to take a position because our clients are separate here and we are in separate camps, but if they're going to do this bill, here's what's technically wrong with it. And they agreed on that, all of them together. So I shipped it to both the lenders and the, I think it was one group of contractors, and says, if you're going to do this, we're going to sit this one out because, I've got no place to sit. But, if you're going to do this, you might consider, amending the bill to at least make it technically clean. So that was helpful. That's important to say why we're opposed to a bill if it gets to that point. The legislative calendar does not sync with our calendar. They're usually meeting about every week in the spring. If it's a bill that's just ordinarily filed, we'll generally get 6 days notice of a hearing. Now at this time of the year, I'll be lucky if I get an hour's notice on amendments. There is usually somebody in every one of your section councils that I talk to on a regular basis, not to go around your section council, but to supplement the section council when an amendment is filed and I know it affects our folks, and I'll have a sense where we may be, but I don't really know. I will call that person and says, what do you want me to do? And really, I've only had one time where a person in 22 years guessed wrong on it, and the bill ended up dying, and I, of course, ended up hiding from everybody for this time because I'd gotten us out on a position. But as the late Dan Houlihan said, I hate sitting in Judiciary Committee when there's a bill that obviously affects us and I can't say anything. I will do that from time to time because I'm just not sure where we're going to be at, or we're going to have some divisions, or we're not sure. The other thing, all of your members in your sections talk to other folks. I've gotten calls from people and saying, well, I understand your XYZ section council doesn't like this bill. And he said, are you going to help me on it? They try to get us to do their dirty work. and I try to be judicious about getting involved in bills, particularly because I've got to know if we're a stakeholder or not somehow, if I can find a legal issue, but I try not to get myself maneuvered in that. I'm going to show you, if I'm smart enough to get on the internet, Melissa, to there's a way to
It's magical.
okay, okay, I didn't want to mess up anything. The General Assembly website is actually pretty intuitive, even for someone like me that's not technologically. But I want to show you how to use their website if you want to track your own legislation. You go to My Legislation, you click on it. I see Drew running around, so that should be. There is a way, and I wanted to, internally we use a third-party vendor to do our own tracking. So every bill we send, for examples, to real estate, we have a tracking sheet on it. You know, where is it at in the process, and your comments. If you want that before your meeting, contact your liaison, and she'll get in touch with us. We ask that you go through your liaison if possible, because so that they're not blindsided in committee. Thanks, Drew. But anyway, you click on My Legislation there, and this is a free service. All you got to do is register once. Kim and Jill are very conversant with this, by the way, if you ever, what I've got to do here. All right. Okay, no, we don't want to save that. This is how I track bills a lot of times. You can add bills into a tracking sheet that they carry for you. Like, for example, here's here's our 2018 ISBA. Let's go 2018. Pop-up block. Drew, where are we at? There's a way to do this. Oh, I think it's.
Holding down Control key while you hit it. Yeah, hit that. Come on, Jim.
All right. Oh, here we are. Okay, there's a pop-up. It won't let me get in there. Well, that would have been easy, wouldn't it?
That should do it.
All right. You can track bills in here. So if you want to assign somebody from your section council, your secretary, to track bills, it will track bills, and it'll tell you exactly where they're at. You can get reports from it, you know, like under report options, past stuff on it. The synopsis, this is the abbreviated report. The synopsis report has all action. The one thing I'm going to show you, and I'm not going to belabor this, it's a pretty intuitive site, other than I couldn't get the pop-ups, but the one thing here, if you do edit bills, I want to show you something. Like before I have a legislation committee meeting, I put all the bills I think I want to talk about in there, or we have to decide. We add them all in there, and then we print them out on a report. But what you can do is go down here, and I think you could do this. You click on, let's see here. I'm going to click on this one right here, and then I'm going to add comments, and then you can add comments. Hit return, and then when you look at that again, and I'll hit apply, and we'll walk you through, your secretary who wants to do it. You can go back to that bill and say, we discussed this, and you can put like a paragraph of comments, because usually I don't get more than a paragraph of comments on a final position. So you might want to think about your secretary trying to use that, the secretary of your committee. Again, I don't care how we get positions from you, whether it's an email. I've had some people put these beautiful Excel or Access sheets. I don't care. But this, you can actually track them here on the General Assembly, the stuff that you're sent. People call Kim all the time and ask if bills are dead. The magic words generally are re-referred. When a bill goes into each chamber, it's referred to the Committee on Assignments in the Senate, referred to the Committee on Rules in the House for transmission to a substantive committee after the Speaker and President take a look at them. If it goes re-referred, that means dead. We love those deadlines down there. I love John Cullerton, but we get exasperated with him because he extends deadlines, and all of a sudden Kim thinks the bill's dead, and next thing the bill's been deadline's been re-extended. But that's the magic words. Three final things, because I'm going past my 10-minute here. Yeah.
Those comments go to you, or they go to the General Assembly?
No, those comments are yours. This is your private user file, so it's for you. So what I'm suggesting, you might have your secretary look at, and if they have any problems like working their way through it, call Kim and she'll walk you through it, because she does this. I use this. I don't put comments in, but I use this on. And the question was these comments go to the General Assembly? No, this is your private user file. Okay, three things here because I want to finish up. I don't care how you discuss legislation. Some of the committees with a lot of volume, like criminal, will have a 3-person subcommittee, and they will sort of triage everything for the rest of the committee, because I know sometimes section council meetings get really bogged down discussing legislation. They'll like triage for it. I don't care how you do it. It's an easy layup for CLE credit to write articles about legislation. In June and July, we'll pretty much know what's on the governor's desk. That's a real easy article for you to write, 1, to keep you current, and 2, to get CLE credit about some bill that passes in your practice area. And the final thing I want to leave you with, and in our process internally, we got people looking at it, and then we've got a legislation committee that's appointed by the president that tries to harmonize and homogenize what everybody's saying and try to, thread the needle. That's procedurally where we're at. Occasionally we have section councils in conflict. Theoretically, it's supposed to go all the way to the board level, but it often doesn't because the legislation dies out. Or I'll ask, person A on section A to talk to person B on section B, and kind of try to work it out informally. The final thing I want to leave you with, something I think that we need to start doing a little better, and this is probably my fault that I haven't emphasized it. There's more and more being done by rules, and on the General Assembly website there's a place that's also free under Legislative Support Services, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, the Flynn Report. Every week there's a report that comes out of what are the rules that the agency is proposing, and that there's a comment period. I would recommend that you appoint 1 or 2 people to make sure that they look at every week, and it's a short report generally, and just skim it to see if there's anything there in your subject matter area that your section council needs to comment on, because both at the national and state level there's more and more being done by rules, and I don't monitor that. Maybe I should, but a lot of times it's very technical, like the Environmental Protection Agency is issuing rules. I may not understand its import. I would appoint 1 or 2 people to make sure they look at it, give a short Flynn report, nothing we care about. If there's something you can care about, we can either do a Rule 3.8 where your section actually comments on it with the approval of the President and Executive Director, or actually the Bar Association. I've taken memos from folks where there was no one else opposed, and we made it a Bar Association policy to communicate our comments to the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules. There's more and more activity in the rural area, and we need to be a little. It's probably my fault that I haven't emphasized this with you in years past, but take a look at that. I'm past my 10 minutes. I think about 16 or 17. So, are there any questions you'd like to ask me? And if you have any today, tomorrow, later, it's fine. Just call me. Yes, President-elect. Pardon me.
No, I just wanted to say to the group, we have a great resource here in James Covington. He has years and years of experience down with the legislature and the state senate. So any questions you have or any comments you have on your local legislators that you could pass along to Jim, that would really be great communication. Because again, this year, I want all you section members, committee members, all you chairs, I want as much two-way communication as we can, because we're all in this together. I'm renting the office for a year. It's your bar association. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Morning, everyone. I'm Dennis Archer, the Assistant Executive Director of Finance and Administration. Melissa and Blake are passing out something I put together for you guys. It's I'm going to talk about reimbursement. They saved the driest part of this day to me at the very end, so I want to go over some of the things that's on there as it gets passed out to you. Who am I? Dennis Archer. I'm just an old school accountant. What am I without a spreadsheet? I'm lost. What am I without a calculator? I'm lonely. These are things we work hard to develop the budget for ISBA that's consistent with sections and committees' expenses. We budget close to $500,000 to cover these costs. On any given year, we're running individual reimbursements in excess of 1,300 reimbursements to get you people money back that you spent traveling related to sections. The top part, just 3 keys for trying to be reasonable. We ask that you hold your meeting at the CRO when possible, and I would tell you don't forget about the Illinois Bar Center in Springfield. We redid the Illinois Bar Center. We have a great boardroom there that can hold anywhere from comfortably 25 to 30 people. So if you're a downstate heavy, please consider using the Bar Center. Make sure your agendas warrant a meeting, and naturally try and think about conference call versus in person. Going down through here, expenditures must be received within 45 days of them being incurred. You know, these like green forms or white forms you see, I can tell you just last week we got a couple mid-year reimbursements. So it really helps us, and the sooner you get us those reimbursements, the quicker you can get your money back. The next key thing is, remember you can email those to reimbursement@isba.org, or the fax number's on here as well. No reimbursement with the exception of parking for a member who's traveling where their address is within 75 miles of that meeting. That's important to remember, except for parking, which the parking limit is $25. As a chair, remember any out-of-state section or committee meetings must be approved in advance by the president. Transportation expenses for approved out-of-state meetings will be reimbursed only to the state line of Illinois. The only exemption is really you can have meetings in St. Louis. We consider St. Louis a metropolitan area that's right on the border. If we go down, just to hit what are we reimbursing for and what is the percentage. 90% is the key. The other thing is the 40 cents per mile, but 90% on air or rail, not to exceed $3.15. 90% on taxis, limousine. Remember to submit the receipt. 90% of actual lodging not to exceed $180, and that general lodging is provided for the night preceding a morning meeting or the night following an afternoon meeting. Remember the receipts as well. 90% on actual on tolls, the 40 cents per mile, the parking we just talked about, and the important part for you guys is number 7. As the chair, you need to improve the reimbursement form for your people who have attended. The other thing to kind of remember at the end too is on that reimbursement form there is a spot if you want to donate to the Illinois Bar Foundation. They do a lot of great work with Lawyers Care and helping people out, as well as it's a tax deductible donation, and they have grants programs that helps out as well. I think that is it. Are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Dennis, I'll be submitting my my reimbursements for 1998. Are you listening to me? Speaking of reimbursements, next year's budget committee, we've already started discussing this, but we'll be reviewing the reimbursement policy. So if you have any thoughts on the mileage policy, the parking policy, the lodging policy, we'd love to hear it. Because basically, if you haven't noticed, this year we want communicate, 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 and we're going to communicate to you if you communicate to us. I want to thank you for attending today. I'd love to hear your feedback. I think this worked out well instead of rushing it at the annual meeting. And
again, if you have any feedback at all on any of the topics that we discussed, and I thought it was great, I'd really like to give a round of applause to the staff of putting this together and meeting these people. You know, lastly, I did make a comment about it. I'm renting the office for a year. It's not my bar association, it's your bar association. So feel free to contact us, talk to us. I've heard a lot of good suggestions and a lot of feedback already. So feel free to do that. And thanks for coming. Appreciate it. I'll see you at the annual meeting. Bye-bye.